Hello and welcome back to the Weekly Woo from May 4th to May 10th, 2026. And we do have an interesting upheaval week in front of us. We do have two mean squares, a square with Mars, a square with Pluto. And anytime we see those two placements when planets and aspects, it means this is going to be the flavor of the week for the whole week. So, avoid engaging in conflict. If you're throwing a hook, toss it back. So be very, very in control of yourself, level-headed, and just be on your game and be in observation mode more than anything. Okay, so this week we have no ingressions, which means we do not have any planets shifting into new signs. So that's okay. So that tends to be a little more stable. We do recently have Uranus that just nicely entered into Gemini. So it's still at that 0 degree and we're still in that allowable energy orb of that Uranus in Taurus at the 29th degree. We're not fully out of that energy yet. So that is kind of like craziness and weirdness and out of the blue things that happen, unexpected events mixed with unexpected people involved. Okay, so and at the 0 degree is unstable and it's unpredictable energy as well. So anytime we have that 29th degree, that 0 degree with any planet entering into or exiting out of a sign, it's very, very unpredictable. And it tends to be known as the anaretic degree, which means it's unpredictable. It tends to act out in the negative before it planes out into the positive. But that's not always a bad thing. I mean, depending on where you are in life, depending on what you got going on and the state of awareness in a person, it can be very shake-up, upheavalish, meaning it can straighten things out and begin to correct. So, for example, the exposure of negative behaviors or hidden things, things that should have never been. So secrets, right? Things that people bury and hope that other people don't find out. Well, they can expose those. So in that case, it's good. So, and something else I'd like to mention, just because we have a Mars square and a Pluto square, it doesn't mean it's always negatively bad, right? So mixed with that, it's kind of like a very, very conflict-ridden or problems or tension-filled, and it can even be war-torn energy, explosive energy in the negative or, the negative form or play-out fashion, but it can also be very, very corrective. So just because I say square all the time, people always think, oh my God, it's a bad thing. But lots of times it can be the energy that separates and exposes right from wrong, truth versus lies. The truth comes out, the exposure. Anything that kind of needs an explosive upheaval, exposure, things that need to be found out, secrets in the negative energy can be exposed. So in that case, it can be quite positive. And, it can be the meaning or the exposure between good versus evil, good versus bad. So you take it as it lands. That's a different storyline for everybody, but it does have that potential, to be very problematic, but it does on the rare side have that potential to be very, very good, right? So, for example, if it was a battle between two people in a courtroom, all of a sudden, kaboom, the truth comes out and you have the winner and you have the loser. So, but in this week, if that should be the case in any way, shape, or form, just know that those squares with those particular two planets, Mars and Pluto, are harsh planets. And so the winner that's really, really good, but the loser would be the sore loser. So it's kind of, watch over your shoulder type of thing. It comes with bad behavior. Okay, so like I said, we have no ingressions, but we do on May 6th have Pluto stationing retrograde at 5 degrees Aquarius. So at that point, we will become one planet direct. We will no longer be all planets direct. So technically right now, when I'm doing this recording, I'm doing it on May 3rd. And so technically we are all planets direct until Wednesday, May 6th. Then we are the furthest outer planet retrograde, which essentially is not a big deal because it's an outer planet, and we still have all our inner planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars. They're still direct motion. So that's still a pretty good flow, right? So anyway, there's that. And that's about all we have going on for the ingression or planets moving signs. There's none, and just a retrograde Pluto coming in, and that's about it. So that on that forefront or that fashion, everything is kind of Not too much going on in that area, but that's okay. That's good. And again, I will state, not only do we have those harsh squares coming in, and it will flavor the whole week. So you're going to have kind of bitchy, grumpy people around. And so just have patience and walk away. But it has got that undertone of that Uranian energy floating around. Even though Uranus is not active in aspect form this week, it's still going to, play its undertone this week. That 0 degree Gemini, that can be unexpected news. You find unexpected events or something out of the blue. Often that Uranian energy is accident prone. And remember, Uranus is known as our sky god. So that can be sky linked, airplane linked, jet linked, those kind of things. And remember, this can also include air travel because we have our sky god Uranus mixing and it's sitting in our air sign of Gemini. Okay. So that could be, just kind of unexpected things going on in your local environment, your hometown or in the neighboring town, somewhere close. Or it can be accidents happen, on short trips here and there. That is can happen. And it can be, unexpected things with devices and internet. So Uranus is always linked with internet, anything good or bad. So the 0 degree, we're starting to move into something a little more positive, but it's still very unstable, unpredictable energy. And that tends to be, airborne communication, learning things that we just didn't see coming. Like Uranus, to me, when you're talking communication, it's unexpected things that, I just can't believe that happened, or I can't believe that that's true, or unexpected news that surfaces that creates chaos, right? So that could be mixing with those squares. It could be unexpected news that comes in of an exposure of a truth, and that can create a complete crumbling or imploding of something or someone. So often that can hover around leaders or say political leaders on a global level. So if we don't have this kind of craziness going on in your personal life, good for you, first of all, but we can sit and we can definitely observe this on a global stage. So sit back and look and see how these transits and these energies actually impact the world on a global stage. It's really a good learning curve to sit there and look at that, right? All right. So moving on, again, so I'm just going to mention that I just said those two squares are going to impact the whole week, but the exact days for those squares is May 4th, we have Mars square Jupiter, and that can be very war-torn or out of control conflict or fighting or tension on an overdone way, over egos. And this can also be energy put into blind faith, right? Pull your head out of the sand or take off the rose-colored glasses. That can really accentuate that area as well. May 5th, we have Mercury square Pluto. So that's a nasty one. They're both nasty. We have Mars and we have Pluto in squares back-to-back days. Again, that's going to flavor the whole week. And Pluto retrograde, now that comes in on May 6th. And now, interestingly enough, these squares can certainly be playing into that Pluto retrograde, meaning there's going to be problems or hurdles or tension or conflict that arise. And it's going to go digging back into those old dark corners, digging out and sweeping out the corners and shedding some light in there to expose whatever's a secret, whatever's been hidden. It can be very truth-telling. So as an astrologer, I would say, this is probably your last chance to come clean with if you've got something going on there, because if not, be prepared to have the karmic consequences showing up on your doorstep. Okay, and we'll leave it at that. So again, a different storyline for everybody, but we can sit there and watch this play out on a global level. Okay, so we do have an Aries stellium yet. We have Mars, Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron sitting in Aries. So Aries, that is that go-getter energy, that fire burner, get things started, get going. It's entrepreneurial. And it is very, very fiery energy. And it tends to be me, myself oriented, not in a bad way. Sometimes it can be self-centered. That's one of the negative things about Aries, but it can be fight for the underdog. I will take responsibility and I will step up to the plate and take one for the team. Okay, it tends to be quite independent. It's got lots of courage. It's got lots of stamina. It's very, very bold. Now, on a more negative side of Aries, because it's very, very fluent energy here yet, the more negative side, this is where violence or violent actions can take place. It can be exceptionally selfish domineering, controlling, and belligerent. So this is something, or, and quick-tempered, angry, hasty, and that's something we do not want to see. So just do pay attention if you do feel that it's time to shut her down, take a break, take a walk away from whatever is irritating, right? And the other thing about so much Aries energy, because we're sitting in that stellium, and so Aries and Leo, they're both fire signs, and they're both known for that energy of sovereignty. And we certainly see this playing out on a global stage. So again, it's going to be still very, very focused in that area, sovereignty oriented and sovereignty kind of implemented. Okay, so take that as it lands. That would be a different storyline for everybody. All right. Something else I do want to mention about the Aries stellium is, again, I'll talk about this a little bit later, but it really does focus around the physical body health areas. Okay, so the muscles, the physical body, the physique, you might be paying attention to this, focus on this, maybe building a better physique, stronger muscles, those kind of things. And this also will hover around the head, face, brain, and upper and lower teeth and into the sinuses. So this always covers the head, interior, exterior. And because we have such challenging aspects for the most part this week, do be very, very cautious and careful around the head. Bump to the head, a trauma to the head, a hit to the head, cuts or punches to head, because that could be very, very oriented here. Or something going on with the teeth. Okay, just take careful precautions with the head, face, brain, upper teeth, lower teeth areas. Okay, that's something I want to mention. Anyway, Aries and Mars certainly rule the first house, and that is a health house about the physical body, any way, shape, or form. So, something else I do want to mention, we do have an active Pisces in the North Node, Pisces energy in the North Node. And so we're slowly filtering out of that Pisces energy, which is a good thing because it's watery, it's deep, it's dark, you can't see it. But this can be water leaks and water main breaks. We just seen one of those last week. And anything to do with leaks, so leaky faucets, taps, toilets, washing machines, dishwashers, line main breaks, and this can include sewage backup. So do take precautions if you're leaving, on vacation or whatever. Do shut your source of water off, and do double check all your appliances, etc., for leaks, because we're kind of sitting in that time zone where it can be a problem. Okay, and something else with Pisces, and I'll talk a little bit more on this, the health axis, after we get into that part of the reading. Something else, this can also be prone to people that cannot mind their own business, and do not let this be you, right? So implement healthy, respectable boundaries. That includes you, but everybody else, maybe, mind your own business on your plate. And keep your nose on your own face kind of thing, but also implement healthy boundaries with others. If you have people poking their heads into your business or, inserting their attention where it does not belong, sometimes it is a time to implement those healthy boundaries. Like it or don't like it, that's just the way it is, okay? So that's something that can show up. People who can't mind their own business or keep their nose on their own face. All right, and I had already crossed the path of Uranus at 0 degrees Gemini. That is a new ingression. It just nicely entered into Gemini, sitting at that 0 degree. At this point in time, it would be about 0 degrees, 25 minutes. Anyway, so it has got that unstable, unexpected influence happening, and the 0 degree can be on a global or a public stage. But it's unstable, so unexpected events, unexpected people. This can include the earth, the environment, eruptive, so like volcanoes or shifting of tectonic plates, earthquakes, any sort of weather event that's kind of crazy and unpredictable and unstable weather, or acts of God is what I'm thinking of, weather. And something that can include banking, currencies, interest rates, cryptocurrencies, digital currencies. It's very unstable. It'll be all over the place. And so when we have Uranus in like that 29 0 degree, it's kind of here, there, and all over, and unexpected activity showing up. All right. Okay, and something else I want to mention is when I look at the May calendar, we have a blue moon month of May. And so blue moons we have 2 full moons in 1 month. Okay, so we just nicely have the full moon in Scorpio at 11 degrees, and that would have come in on May 1st, which was just a couple days ago. And so we will still be having that Scorpio or Scorpion energy undertone mixing with that Uranian undertone mixing with those squares. So it's very, very erratic energy, and it can be very, very fixated energy on whatever. It's that deep dive. It's very, very intense. So it can be a very upheaval, intense energy week for everybody. And we can see that playing out on the global stage. And the second full moon is going to be on May 31st, and that's going to be 9 degrees Sagittarius. So that's always kind of cool when those come in. We will be having 2 sextiles, so that's opportunity, right? Preparation means opportunity, means you actually have to go do something to take advantage of an opportunity that arises, okay? And so that's a good thing. So that's about the only really positive aspects we had this week. But again, it's kind of turbulent, but sometimes it can be turbulent good, right? So again, just remember, squares don't always work out, badly or challenged. Maybe they can for the most part, but the rare side, they can bring some pretty good answers, some pretty good exposure, some pretty good opportunities. And if you're looking to put something to rest or completion, often Pluto squares will do that for you. It kind of brings out the truth. It creates chaos. A truth comes out, it implodes. It can be power control struggles coming in, but looking, if it's not coming to an end this week, it will be on its way. All right. And this week, as soon as I looked at this week, because we do have quite a bit of Neptunian aspects, to me, it just said, don't believe everything you're told and do not believe everything you see. Things are not how they look. And when we're mixing those squares in with those particular planets, Mars and Pluto, they mean business. They're harsh, right? Remember, Mars is our god of war. And Pluto is our death and transformation planet, okay? They mean business. So hopefully it will work out okay for a lot of people. But for some people, the people who are deceitful, well, that's how that's going to play. The truth being seen, hidden agendas being exposed, and that's going to be the completion, the end, or working towards an end. So apply that accordingly. Different storyline for everybody. All right, so when I look at this week, it is all over the place. Your plans are not going to stay the same, so write your plans in pencil, keep an eraser handy, or write it on that marker board, but keep the eraser handy as well. So be patient, be flexible, be willing to change your plans, and have plan A, B, C, D, and E ready. Plan A and B don't work out, move on to plan C. And just be very, very flexible and adaptable, because your plans will not stay according to your plan, you think, okay? We do have many, many, many minor negative aspects. So those semi-sextiles, those semi-squares, we have quintiles, we have sesquiquadrates. And remember, that's kind of the pick a fight thing, and that's going to be an underlying theme this whole week. So that's really going to provoke conflict or provoke negative or challenging areas. So again, stay in observation mode, be in total control of your behavior, because we're sitting in that week where it's very, very provoking. It's unstable, conflict-ridden. Again, pick a fight. It's tension. It's a lot of confusion going on, right? So do find out fact from fiction before you engage. Better yet, don't engage at all. Walk away. Okay. And so, again, when we have all those negative minor aspects, those are those little buggers that are annoying, and those are the ones that continuously change our plans. Okay, so we will have a massive amount of communication coming in and outgoing. And so when I say communication, that can be phone calls, that can be text messages, that can be emails, that can be letters, registered letters. So hard copy mail through the postal service, those kind of things. Running into somebody on the street, chit chat, those kind of things. High communications, incoming, outgoing. So, and it probably is going to be to the point we're going to have to prioritize tasks. What's important, what's not, what has to be done this week, what can sit and wait. And that will kind of simplify your week. We do have a very active Venus. And so that can be very, very relationship oriented. Remember, relationships make the world go round. So it doesn't have to be love or the romantic, but it can be personal. It can be romantic, of course. It can be friendship. It can be people you work with, people in, for example, the political realm, those types of things. Yeah, so they're very focused and about our values, self-values, value structures, and our self-worth. So that is going to be very highlighted too. And again, action, energy, force, aggression, for the most part, that can very much show up. We have an active Mars in a challenged way. So again, it's very conflict ridden. It's angry, it's hasty, and it can be very, very war torn. Again, violence, acts of violence showing up. So that's totally possible. And we have that Mars square that can be acts of violence, extreme selfishness, force, and angry, out of control. Okay. So that's something we do not want to see. So do pay attention to your behaviors and keep it under wraps, keep it under control. We do have an active Jupiter as well. So this is, for the most part, quite challenged. So that can be getting carried away, taking on too much, overcommitting to things that you say yes to, but you know you really shouldn't, because you just know you can't fulfill your words or your promises. So don't do that. Saying no is certainly better off than making promises you can't keep or you have no intention of keeping. Don't do the people-pleasing thing. And it can be over ego. That can be a problem. It can be overextension, overdoing, overindulging. So keep overindulgence at bay. And again, this can really supercharge the fighting, wanting to be overly aggressive. So we don't want to do that either. So keep it at bay, and you know what? Know your limits. Stay within it, kind of thing, for your overcommitting or your commitments or whatever, right? Jupiter likes to expand and grow everything. So in a challenged way, that's basically overextending in every way possible. That is not good. Okay, so keep it at wraps, keep things in a priority list, and know what you can do, know what you can finish, and don't make empty promises. Okay, and we do have Pluto active. And so when we have an active Pluto, again, that's the death and rebirth. Pluto rules the 8th house of death, rebirth, regeneration, transformation, and that includes sex, that includes big money. That's a big money house as well, right? And so we'll get into that a little bit later. But anyway, it means business, and it can be very, very challenged. And that is also a relationship house or a marriage house. So that is creating a lot of tension or a lot of conflict in those particular areas. So you might have problems with taxes or owing taxes or something like that creates a little bit of trouble there. Or attention getting, anyway, to say the least. And you might be talking about death topics. So, funeral planning, estate planning, working with a will, executors, anything to do with death matters. So whether it's current or whether you're, maybe pre-planning funeral arrangements, or again, estates and wills, etc., executors, anything to do with that. Anyway, we will move on to that a little bit later. Okay, so I think that kind of covers everything I want to talk about on my notes here. Okay, so we will move into some highlighted areas where probably they are going to be highlighted. All right. So again, so we have an active Mars and an Aries stellium. Okay, so again, I would just be cautioned. This is going to be a focus on the physical body, could be physical health, and just do be careful because it's in a challenged aspect. It's a harsh square, meaning don't overexert yourself. Don't do things that really don't make a lot of sense. And so over-exercising, for example, or it can be problems with the physical body or the head, face, brain areas, those types of things. So when we're talking about the first house, again, that's about the physical body. So weight, wellness, illness, self-image, those kind of things. And it could come with the problems or challenges or maybe overdoing things to the point of overexertion. So cut her back, right? Don't get carried away. And this is also what you're recognized for. This can also involve the physical appearance. Okay, identification. And again, that head face areas, internal, external, including the teeth and sinuses, face, outside face, in the head, exterior of the head. And so those can be very, very highlighted this particular week. And so moving on to the next one. So again, communication is very, very high. So this can be communication with relatives. This won't be kids or parents, but this can be, aunts, uncles, cousins, next door neighbor, people who are close to us. And this also is the house of siblings. So there might be people talking with their siblings. That could be more than one. And you could be looking at communication devices. So that can be computers, desktop, laptops, iPhones, iPods, iPads, any sort of personal communication device or system. Now, this also includes transportation, mobility, so that could be anywhere from a wheelchair to a scooter to a car to a truck to a side-by-side to a quad. And right now, we're still in a reasonably good time to buy those things because until the 6th, we are in all planets direct. But even after Pluto stations retrograde, it's still okay, really, to buy anything that would be a larger ticket item because it's an outer planet. And our personal planets are still direct motion. So that's a good thing. All right. Again, this can hover around writing and editing, short trips, social media platforms, maybe working with it, starting to watch more social media platforms, creating social media platforms or tweaking them, right? Maybe settings or those kind of things. And anything internet or internet based. Now, something I do want to talk about in this particular week, because it's such a challenged week of those harsh squares, is gossip. Do not let the gossip get out of control. Know fact from fiction. And even if you do know fact from fiction, stay away from gossip this week because that can be very provoking for fights. Okay, and now we're into the 6th house. Again, we have all 3 health houses lit up. So that's 1, 6, and 8. So again, health and wellness, health and healing. And this can really boil down to basic routines or daily routines or regimens. You might be forming those or you might create them, but make sure they're within reason because this can be an overdoing week and we do not want to do that. So for example, if you were lifting weights or you're out to the gym every day, well, that's not reasonable and that's not acceptable, right? You need a day's rest and you don't want to overwork muscles. A, you can do damage. B, you might be too tired for, too many days in a row. So keep it in check. So your work will be very important, doing things that are important to you. And everything is about the detail. When we have that 6th house, Virgo house, it is all about the detail, right? And finding systems that work, organizing systems that work, organization, decluttering, that is a Virgo thing. Mentorship, and again, diet, exercise, health focus, and your service to the world. Now, this can include employees and employers in any way, shape, or form. Again, this tends to be more of a challenged area, so there might be a little bit of conflict going on in the workplace or job place. Enslavement and slavery, and a little bit of bad luck. No, the 6th house is a karma house. So we might be looking at karmic cycles and working on those. And slavery and enslavement, so that can be, well, we know that those words are just not good, but that could be, enslavement to a job. I am in a job that I hate because I make a good dollar because I have to be here because I have a big debt load to pay off. Okay, so that's one example. Another example is being enslaved or slavery within a relationship. Now, that certainly won't be for everybody, but you're there because you feel enslaved or you're feeling enslaved to the person you're with for whatever reason, right? And unfortunately, that will be for a couple people out there. And it can be just that little bit of crappy bad luck, right? And the 8th house, again, 1, 6, and 8, that's all the health houses lit up. So this is the house of surgeries or hidden procedures. Surgeries or procedures that are hidden from the public, maybe your family. And that's okay. Surgeries are not everybody else's business either, but this is also the house of abortions and miscarriages, right? And so a surgery, so it might be, surgeries from the past you might be talking about, rehashing with a friend or family, or even talking to your doctor about. And it can be maybe planning a surgery or a surgery going ahead. So however that fits. And it is also the house of Cancer. So when we have Scorpio, when we just had the Scorpio full moon, we have a very active Pluto square. So that can be anything Cancer or Cancer linked, okay? And any place in the body. So that certainly won't be for everybody. And even if it's not you, hopefully it's not, but you could be talking about somebody who's had the disease of cancer or has it now or has had it. Again, that 8th house is the house of death and transformation. Okay, so you might even know somebody who's just recently passed from cancer. Okay, so when we're talking about the 8th house, the 8th house, the 4th house, the 12th house are all water houses. They're deep dive houses. They're dark houses. You can't see into them. I like to describe them as looking at a lake. We can see everything above the lake, the boats, the water skiers, the marinas, the docks, whatever, but everything below the surface is out of sight, out of mind. You can't see it. You don't know what's going on there. So this is also known as a lotto house. It's a health house, again, the house of surgery, or again, hidden procedures or hidden surgeries. This is also about the area of investments. It's other people's money. It's any other people's money in any way, shape, and form. That includes a lotto, okay? Inheritance, spousal or familial money, collaboration. This can be debt, capital loans, taxes, legacy money. This can also be about your credit report or credit rating. This is the house, a marriage house or a relationship house, intimacy, sex. This can also be the power control areas, and this is also about self-empowerment. So that could be the conflict coming in between two people in a relationship where maybe somebody's finally had enough and they got pushed too far. And all of a sudden, when that line is crossed, that growth or self-empowerment takes its initial route, its initial stages. Like that's enough, and put an end to it, and we're on into a different direction. It's a psychology, parapsychology, esoteric, occult, mystical study or mysticism energy. So it's also about mysteries. Maybe you might be writing a mystery, or mysteries are surfaced and exposed, what was hidden. And again, this can be estate linked, right? So anything to do with estates, wills, funerals, shared money. So this can include joint bank accounts, okay? So however that would suit, or however that would play out for you, if it does at all. And again, the lotto house. Like it's a big house. So the house 8 and house 12 are big houses. So anyway, it can be transformation or transition of any kind, okay? So again, I want to say taxes could be a topic here too as well. All right. Then we move on to your finances and your expenditure, your budgeting, how you make money, as in what kind of job do you do that makes money. That can be very, very surfaced here as well. Savings or savings account. Again, this can hover around the environment and the earth. Building security. Again, this is very linked with your values and your inner value, your value systems, your value structures, your self-worth. And often when we have a challenged week like this is where the pressure and the tension can be put on, which you're put into a corner where eventually, just like that, you adjust your values, your value systems, your value structures, and your self-worth becomes recalibrated, meaning you have a higher sense of value for yourself, higher standards. And as soon as we have that higher self-worth, we have higher value systems, usually our life becomes much simpler and it becomes much improved. This can be the assets, the values, the possession house. So the second house is the money possessions house, right? Assets, etc. So that can be highlighted as well. Again, the relationships of any kind, okay? So this can also include, this is also communication oriented, because the seventh house is an air house. So practitioners and helpers. So you might be a practitioner, you might be looking for a new practitioner, you might be a helper, you might be looking for a helper. And again, very, very relationship based. Aesthetics, beauty, art, design can be a concept here. You might be designing something, doing something like that. And contracts and agreements. And so when we have that seventh house being lit up, so that can include clients, customers, customer relations, public relations, customer service, and relationship with not only others, but your relationship with self. Again, that really hovers down that our personal value systems, and our self-worth. And for the most part, I think we can all use continuous upgrading in that area with our relationship with self, and usually life only improves after that, but that's an ongoing progression for each one of us as an individual. House 5 is lit up. So pleasure, joy, having fun, finding things that bring us enjoyment, fun, pleasure, creative expression. That's any kind. That could be sewing to cooking to writing to editing to publishing, anything that you would think as creative expression, building things, projects, hobbies that would reflect your creative expression. And this is also the house of children and grandchildren. Creative projects, hobbies, again, fun. That can also include gambling, right? And hidden talents. And this can also be being seen on a larger, more public global scale. So that might be you, might not be you. Or we can maybe be watching somebody that grows onto a more public scene. This also will focus on leadership. So leadership, in your own life, maybe in your community, or maybe your state, province, country, whatever. But this can really focus on leadership on a global scale, especially when I see this with those Pluto and Mars squares. So that is complete upheaval and probably chaos in that particular scene. This is also the house of romance, falling in love, and sex. So we do have quite a bit of relationship-oriented energy this week. So Again, it can be quite challenged in that area. And this is also a good luck house. It's the bucket list house. It's also the house of sports and speculation. So, with such a challenging week, it's kind of nice to see something coming in where it could be, just kind of like a stroke of good luck that comes in. And again, it is mixing with a couple sextiles. So even though it's a challenging week, it doesn't have to play out that way, right? It really depends on what you do with that energy, how you project it, how you channel it. You channel the energy, don't let it challenge you. Or channel you for that exam. Okay, and now we have the 9th house lit up. And so this is about finding solutions, solution-oriented, which is nice. So this is also about international connections, international cultures. And so that's kind of, overseas, looking beyond your country into something foreign. So this can be teaching, it can be learning, expanded horizons, and this is long-distance travel. So you might be planning a long-distance travel, talking about it, booking it, anything to do with long distance travel here to there, but in a long distance form for whatever reason. Adventure. And this, again, is very hovered around writing, publishing, writing, editing. So might be writing poetry, you might be writing a book, you might be writing cards, you might be doing something that really consists, and that can be music as well. Anything, writing, publishing, editing, right? It's also about speaking, and this is all about foreign languages too. So you might be thinking about taking up learning a foreign language. This is also about church and spirituality. So when I say spirituality, that would mean any sort of form of spirituality from traditional religion or traditional belief systems to mystical, occult, esoteric, tarot, numerology, astrology, anything under the sun, anything that you can think of that we would link to any type of spirituality can be in the spotlight. Again, that is Jupiter linked, right? And so again, religion, philosophy, again, long trips. And this can also hover around the in-laws or ex-in-laws and ethics, okay? International travel and communications and cultures. And the other good thing about this can be truths arising. And again, that's going to be mixing with that Uranus 0 degrees. So communication or news or information, learning something, learning a truth being exposed or coming out. This can also hover around legal or law matters. And again, for the most part, this whole week, this won't affect everybody on a personal level, but we can certainly see this going to be unfolding on a global scale. So I always like to sit back and watch and see what unfolds on a global scale, because you can certainly see where this energy takes shape and how it plays out for, learning purposes or observation purposes, right? And also, this is a really good thing because we have the 5th house and the 9th house lit up. And guess what? Both of those have a little bit of good luck and a little bit of good fortune in them, right? So again, that out of the blue thing that can, come in as good luck, good fortune, a stroke of good luck, something in your favor. And remember, we do have 2 sextiles. And remember, squares are not always bad. On a rare side, they can be very, very freeing, very, very truth-oriented. And, the implosion of the bad and the rising of the good. That's a good way to put it. Now, we do have, again, I talked about the Pisces energy, and we're slowly getting out of that energy, and that's a good thing, right? Because Pisces tends to be very, very, very emotional all over the place, right? It's a water sign. It's a people-pleasing sign, and we do not want to have too much of that. Actually, none of that, because that's not good for anybody. That's living a life that's not authentic. And so we're slowly getting out of that. And just remember, we are still in that health axis. That would be the North Node Pisces and the South Node Virgo. So what does that mean? It means that we are going to be in a prime focus of the health area in any way, shape, or form. And lots of times that's, weird, unexpected infections or viruses that show up, or unexpected health conditions that arise. Okay, but we are slowly working our way out of this. So that will come to a closure in basically July 2026. But just because it's a July date, it doesn't mean on that exact minute it goes away. So it will fade out. So that will actually fade out into the fall of 2026, right? So we're full stroke right now, and we're getting towards the end. It will fade out by February or by fall of 2026. Okay, so that being said, again, with the health axis, this will link back to years 2006, 2007, and into 2008. So again, the nodes shift a complete circuit, a complete cycle about every 18 years and a few weeks or something like that in that time frame. So if you think back to then, there probably will be something that is familiar. It's kind of like history repeating itself. It won't be the same health story, but it'll be something linked. something linked back to that particular time zone. So if you had something going on back then and you found a resolve, a resolution, a fix, an answer, go back to that time because it can be implemented but in a slightly altered form. Okay, so go back to that time, and remember, astrology always runs in cycles. So that's how we can always do the rinse repeat, say, okay, what was going on back then? It'll be something close, something along the narrative, and it's not always the same because you have to remember the transits, the other planets are not in the same positions or the same spots as they were 18 years ago. Okay, and again, the health axis isn't always a negative thing, but often it does come up as a challenge, but it looks for resolution, right? Answers, but it can also just be a straight health focus, right? Maybe we didn't care, and all of a sudden the last year and a half we do care, and we're putting more focus, more energy, more practice into a better health status. Okay. All right. I'm going to talk about the Pisces 12th house. So that can be very, very highlighted in this area too. So this too is a karma house. So this can be generational karma. This can be past life oriented or interest, and cleaning up generational karma or karmic situations that run probably in your past family history. So apply that accordingly, if at all. So, but this is the house, again, a water house. I referred to this as the water houses are dark houses. They're hidden. You can't see what's going on, or you can't see into them, right? So the 12th house is behind the scenes, hidden or secret. This is rest, retreat time. You might be doing that, maybe not. Dream time, dream state. So this can include lucid dreaming, remote viewing, teleportation, astral dreaming. So do keep a dream journal, write it down, document it, because it might not make sense today, tomorrow, or the next day, but in time it will. Often they can be precognitive dreams, seeing ahead of time what unfolds. And it's kind of cool to be able to monitor that and study that. It's the subconscious mind, psychology, and inner work. And so that inner work really is highlighted this whole week. It's over and over and over. So again, the self-values, the self-value systems, our self-worth, and taking a good long look and having to do that shadow work or inner work. And again, something else that's super highlighted this week is the esoteric, the spirituality, the mystical study, the occult, mysticism. Again, that can be tarot, that can be astrology, that can be numerology, anything religious or spirituality based. And this also includes Akashic records. Now, the downside of the 12th house is the fears and addiction. So living in fear, fears all around, and addiction oriented. Remember, addiction in any way, shape, or form. So that can be alcohol, recreational drugs, prescription drugs, that can be sex addiction, that can be pornography addiction. And remember, the workaholic, the worker that works too much, is also an addiction, right? So just keep everything in balance, and that can be very, very highlighted too. So if it's not you, this can really show up as addiction topic or theme being on a global stage, and that has been for quite some time, but we can certainly see that coming up this week strong, and very much in the focal light because it's running with those Mars and Pluto squares. Again, this is also about the house of private, wanting to be private or liking privacy, or isolation. So, and again, or solitude time, right? So isolation and solitude time, if you're self-implemented because we're writing and editing and publishing and doing self-work or rest, retreat, recharging, rejuvenation, that's fine. But they can also be the house of isolation due to another or an institution. For example, an abusive relationship, one partner is isolating the other from family and friends, or it can be isolation due to maybe someone's doing prison time or jail time, etc. So just some examples. And again, this can also be the house of evading, ignoring, escapism, ignoring anything personal responsibility. So, sidestepping, turning a blind eye, not wanting to take responsibility for whatever's going on that needs to be attended to. This is also the house of confinement. So when we talk about confinement, that can be hospitals, prisons, jails, orphanages, those kind of things. And also confinement, that can be feeling stuck. And this is also the house of just being a number. So when they talk about that, it would be like, you could be in a hospital and you're in confinement, you're there because a doctor admitted you. But really, out of the whole hospital and all the patients, you're just a number. Or it can be, in an orphanage, you're just a number. Or, maybe in military, you're just a number, right? You're part of the whole process. So that's something else that can be kind of expressed in that house. This can also include foreign lands and foreign shores. So we have kind of rinse and repeat energy. So foreign cultures, foreign languages, foreign affairs, foreign lands, foreign shores, and that is often linked with long distance travel. And escapism. So again, escapism, I talked about that, but we can have healthy and unhealthy. So in this particular point, unhealthy would be, alcohol, drugs involved just to escape the everyday or dealing with reality. But the healthy thing is going for walks in nature, reading a book, listening to music, kind of getting lost in something positive, escaping the everyday, but in positive manner. And last and not least, and I like to leave this for last, is redefining yourself, your ego from the ground up. So what do I mean? For example, I use this as an example all the time because it's very, very black and white to understand. So rebuilding yourself from the ground up, maybe you've had a long-term marriage and that is being terminated, is coming to an end, going through a divorce. So a couple of things. You were married status, now you become divorced, you become single. You might have had a house and a home and now you're dividing up assets. So that really, you're stripping down, getting rid of all the unwanted negative energy, and you're starting over from the ground up. So that's essentially what that would mean. That can mean assets, money, houses, your particular status, like, from married to single, etc. So it's a big house. The 12th house is a very big house, like the 8th house. And so there's a lot going on there. And so when I talk about, communication, again, that can be taking courses, that can be learning anything, that can be news, information, communication oriented. So that's something I just wanted to cover and add into that. And this can also include the topics of young people or children. That is also something that can be inserted into this week. And again, using an active, logical mind, using logical reasoning for things, right? Okay. Now we are going to jump into our health and anatomy. All right, so again, we are very Aries oriented. So again, that will include the head, the face, the brain, the upper and lower teeth, and the sinuses. And the head interior, the head exterior, so that can mean exterior skin, hair, facial, anything. It can be even facial reconstruction, actually. Anything to do with the brain or components within the brain. So interior, exterior. That will also include, because we have a little bit of Taurian energy, the throat, the neck, the ears, vocal cords, thyroid gland, tongue, mouth, tonsils, and lower teeth. So our upper and lower teeth are certainly highlighted in this area. Lungs, collarbone, hands, arms, elbows, shoulders, and nervous system. That will also include, the nervous system is very highlighted as a rule of thumb all the way through this whole week. So the brain, we talked about that, but that's super highlighted as too. Sight, mouth, tongue, respiratory system, including lungs, hands, arms, thyroid, mind, thymus gland. Okay, anything to do with the mind and the higher nervous system. So keep that under wraps. So not blowing a gasket when something doesn't going away, not blowing a gasket because you're upset or in a challenge or provoked, right? So keep the central nervous system under wraps, keep it calm. And again, avoid engaging. This is not a good week to engage with fights or conflict with anybody. Walk away. And do something to get rid of that negative energy, cleanse, clear, delete all that energy. Calm the body, calm the nervous system. This will, again, this is Mars oriented, the muscular system. So the muscles in the whole entire physical body. And this can be the external reproductive systems, the head, the face. That's very highlighted. And again, do be careful for traumas or hits to the head or the face, because that could be very prevalent here. And again, so, for example, that could be an unexpected accident where you hit your head off the steering wheel, or an unexpected accident, you wipe out on a bike or a pedal bike, hit your head in the concrete. This is that's just an example. So head, face areas, and that's a rinse repeat cycle that keeps on repeating this week. So do be very careful for that. This can be having to do with red blood cells. So, blood tests to do with the red cells. This can have to do with the bladder and the adrenal glands. So again, overextended adrenal glands, just overtaxed adrenal glands. And this can also include the eliminative and reproductive system. So we're talking Pluto energy. So that's waste and waste management within the body, right? So that, your colon, your intestines, your rectum, anything like that. So anything to do with the elimination systems in the body, and reproductive systems. So that's male or female. So that can be testes, testosterone, to your ovaries, your uterus, to estrogen, progesterone, anything to do with those types of hormones. So the endocrine system, male, female. Pituitary gland, abnormal growth. So when we have Pluto active, Pluto square, this was where it would show up as abnormal growths in the body. So that's not always, red flag, but it can be warts, tumors, of course, moles, birthmarks, skin tags, and it can also include cancer. So anytime we're talking about Pluto square, that can be problems with these kind of abnormal growths or problems with cancer topics, okay? And this can include the hypothalamus gland. Okay, this can include the sense of taste, kidneys, ovaries, internal reproductive organs, and blood circulation, and again, skin sensory organs. And skin keeps on showing up. So that can be skin care, skin health, maybe improving skin, doing something with your skin, maybe a better skin routine, anything to do skin linked. This also includes arterial blood circulation, the liver, the thighs, the hips, the right ear, and the pancreas. This can include the heart, anything to do with your heart function, maybe heart tests, upper back, spleen, circulatory system. That can be the sperm in the male, and this also includes the eyes. And your general vitality and state of health. And again, that is really covered in the general state of health because we have all three health houses lit up big time, right? House 1, physical body. House 6, that's a health focus, diet, exercise, and routine. And House 8, and that's always about surgeries, hidden procedures, or hidden surgeries, and also can be very linked around cancer topics, those kind of, but not always, right? But usually it's surgery linked. And I will talk about the moon energy, even though our full moon in Scorpio has nicely passed on like the 1st or 2nd, depending on your time zone. But I'm going to talk about, because that's going to carry like a flicker of an undertone this week as well. It's really, really a high profile and a very punchy week. Like it's got kind of action and energy written all over this. There's everything that can be that ripple undertone of conflict or upheaval, it's there. Like we have that Scorpio full moon that just happened. We have that Uranus at that 0 degree Gemini, which is kind of unhinged. It's unpredictable, unstable energy, mixing with 2 squares, Mars and Pluto. It's kind of like explosive, unexpected energy, conflict energy written all over this week. So take it in stride, right? Pick your battles. If it doesn't matter, let it go. So when we talked about the moon anatomy, that's about the breast area. So that can be male or female, stomach, areas, whether it's digestion, anything to do with the stomach. Fluid balance. So that can be swelling or, fluid retention for whatever reason, digestion, glandular secretions. And again, the eyes keep on showing up over and over, male and female. Now, something I do want to talk about, that Pisces energy, they're slowly getting out of that, but it's taken a while, and we still have that North Node, and we're still in that health axis. So this can really cover under overdosing problems, overdosing topics, oversensitivity to drugs, okay? Any kind. So that can be recreational, that can be prescription, whatever. Or it can even include alcohol. And this will focus around blood quality, blood tests. Your immune system and your lymph system essentially is the same thing. So toxicity in the body. So often toxic water, toxic fluid in the body, viruses, and weird infections, okay? So, and thymus gland, water retention, swelling, abnormal swelling, that there's no reason for it. But the good thing about that is we are getting out of that state. So if a water retention or swelling or abnormal swelling happens to be a problem, probably over the last 2 or 3 months, you should have noticed an improvement in that area. And it will self-rectify, when we come to that July into fall. So weird but true. And again, yeah, again, I think that has covered everything with those kind of areas in the body. So again, blood test and blood quality can be quite highlighted in this area. So if you're going for blood tests, again, this actually tends to be a pretty good time for having any sort of medical test done because we're in all planets direct, essentially. Pluto will be going retrograde, but that's not the end of the world. At least it's not a personal planet in retrograde form, because that can really wreak havoc with any sort of medical testing equipment, those kind of things. It malfunctions. It's not clean. It's not concise. It can be inaccurate results. That's something I like to point out to people. All right, with that being said, I think that will close off the health and anatomy part. And something else I will talk about is there can be a very, very highlighted energy and focus on immigration and refugees. And I mean, like not that we've seen that in the past, because it's been very highlighted, but it can almost go to an explosive level this week because of the squares. And again, flooding problems, leaks, be very cautious with that. And again, we can have a focus on oil, gas, and plastic areas. So that can be investment, that can be on the stock market, that can be problems at the gas pump with elevated prices. We have seen that. So that can be very in focus, or people being very upset and being explosive over those particular things. And again, that can hover around stock markets. All right, that being said, I think that will wrap up this week's weekly woo. And something else I do want to mention too is we have a lot of cardinal energy and we have a lot of fixed energy. So that's lifting off, starting new things, starting new cycles, and being fixated on maintaining and getting from point A to point B, okay? And with Pisces, it's a scattered energy. And again, that can ripple a little bit through this week too, meaning it's scattered here. Mutable energy with Pisces, and Pisces is kind of active because we have an active north node, so that's why I say that. So it's scattered, it's here, it's there, it's all over the place, and we can be starting 300 things and getting absolutely nothing done, which can be very frustrating. So again, prioritize your tasks, your energy, prioritize your communication and coming out, going, and you should be okay. And again, the biggest thing is keep a lid on your anger, keep a lid on your behavior, because if it's going to spin out of control, it probably will be this week. So remember, once a word is said, once a stone is cast, it can't be retracted, right? The damage is done. So think twice before acting, think 3 times before speaking, okay? So with that being said, that will close this week's reading. So until we talk again, stay happy, stay healthy, take care of yourself, and take care of each other. Bye for now.